Black History. Important people and events. Martin Luther King Jr., civil rights leader in the 1950s and 1960s. Passionate speaker. Famous for his "I Have a Dream" speech. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on April 4, 1968, in Memphis, Tennessee. While standing on the balcony of his hotel, he was shot by James Earl Ray, winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. Beloved leader. Muhammad Ali. Nicknames the greatest, world heavyweight boxing champion, multiple times. Ali refused to go in the military and to war in Vietnam. He changed his name from Cassius Clay and joined the Muslim Brotherhood to fight for the rights of blacks. He suffered from Parkinson's disease late in life and inspired billions, lighting the torch at the 1996 Atlanta Olympic Games. Maya Angelou. She had a very difficult and poor childhood, but she struggled and survived to become a famous author and poet. Her book, The Caged Bird Sings, is a bestseller and classic. She was a tireless speaker and fighter for civil rights and won many awards, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom. John Lewis. Born to a sharecropper family in Georgia, John Lewis became the voice of Black Americans in Congress. A lifelong civil rights advocate and Democratic politician, he served 17 terms of office. He passed after a long life of service in 2020. Barack Obama. The first ever Black president. A lawyer and inspiring speaker, he served 2 terms as the 44th U.S. president. He also served 7 years in the Senate for Illinois. His rally cry and slogan was "Yes, we can." Katherine Johnson. A NASA mathematician for 35 years. Her expertise in orbital mechanics was vital to help lunar missions succeed. She inspired many young girls to become scientists and was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Last year, a satellite was launched and named in her honor. Thurgood Marshall. Famous Supreme Court Justice, who served 25 years on the bench. Combative. Fierce. People feared him in the court and in debate. He voiced the arguments and desires of blacks. Famous for his victory in Brown v. Board of Education, where racial segregation in U.S. public schools was made illegal. Michael Jackson. World-famous celebrity and singer. One of the best-selling performers and singers of all time. He started singing at an early age with his family, the Jackson 5. Michael was the king of pop and an artist that transcended the world of music, changing music forever. Aretha Franklin. The Queen of Soul, Aretha is an iconic singer who fought for the rights of others. A minister's daughter, she first sang gospel and then other musical genres. She had over 17 #1 hit records. They include Respect and A Natural Woman. W.E.B. Du Bois. Sociology professor, prolific author, and founder of today's NAACP. He recorded the history of black people and pushed for full equality for blacks in the early 20th century. His writings on blackness is essential reading, and he declared that the history of the 20th century is the problem of color. Shirley Chisholm. The first ever black woman member of Congress. In 1972 she fought for the Democratic Party nomination for president. She campaigned tirelessly for the poor and for health benefits for all. She was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Malcolm X. Muslim convert and the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood. Born Malcolm Little, he overcame drug addiction and a life of crime to become a leader of the Negro community. Controversial, extreme, Malcolm called for a revolutionary struggle by black men and women. He gave his short life to the cause. He was assassinated in 1965 at the age of 39. James Baldwin. A prolific writer, James Baldwin documented the black experience. He saw this job as one of revealing the truth about the condition of blacks in America and the world. An intellectual, he debated eloquently and articulated the struggle for freedom and civil rights with artistry. As a black, gay man, he implored America to come to terms with its injustices. Sojourner Truth. An escaped slave who lost her whole family, she fought for women's rights and emancipation around the time of the Civil War. A passionate speaker, she met with Abraham Lincoln and also recruited soldiers for the Union Army. She gave herself the name Sojourner Truth after becoming a Methodist and beginning a life of preaching. Spike Lee. One of America's most famous movie directors. His films like Do the Right Thing, Malcolm X and BlacKkKlansman helped define the problems facing people of color in America. He never shied away from controversy and produced powerful films. He championed the black cause both off and on film and was a diehard NY Knicks fan. Booker T. Washington. Born into slavery and self-educated, Booker T. Washington became one of America's great men. In 1901, his book, Up from Slavery, was a national bestseller. He advised presidents and lectured around America awakening people to injustices. He founded Tuskegee University in Alabama, starting it in a teen shack with 30 students. It became one of America's educational success stories. He died and was buried on the campus.
Harriet Tubman. A hero and conductor of the Underground Railroad which brought thousands of slaves to freedom in Indiana, the North and Canada. She worked as a spy and a nurse, tending to fallen soldiers, black or white, during the Civil War. She was buried with military honors in 1913.
Oprah Winfrey. Oprah defined a generation of women, both black and white, through her TV show. She was an influential host and could make or break the careers of celebrities. She went on to found her own TV network and is one of America's richest women. She never shied away from telling America about the injustices facing people of color. Serena Williams. In most people's eyes, the greatest ever women's tennis player. She has won more Grand Slam tennis championships, 23, than any other player and has played, since a young girl, with her father as her coach. She has been an inspiration to a generation of young Afro-American tennis players and girls. Michael Jordan. One of the greatest basketball players of all time. He had a win attitude and could dominate a game like no other player. He won an NCAA championship with North Carolina, scoring a last-second winning basket. He went on to win 6 NBA championships with his beloved Chicago Bulls and also played professional baseball. He never stopped speaking up for injustices done to black men in America. Ida B. Wells. A journalist who exposed the evils of lynching of blacks in post-Reconstruction, Civil War America. Ida Wells was known as the "salt among lions" for her biting exposes in the Memphis Free Speech, a newspaper she co-owned. She risked her life to tell the truth of the many injustices inflicted on blacks.
Frederick Douglass. Born into slavery in 1818, Douglass became America's foremost abolitionist, arguing for an end to slavery. He was a superb public speaker and lectured to thousands. As an activist and intellectual, he firmly believed in the equality of all men and was known as the Great Emancipator. Douglass was the first black man to be nominated for vice president and debated Lincoln several times.
Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson broke barriers and led the way against segregation by becoming the first black Major League Baseball player. On April 15, 1947, he took the field for the Brooklyn Dodgers. His success on and off the field led the way for other black athletes like Bill Russell, Hank Aaron, Jim Brown, and Wilt Chamberlain. Rosa Parks. The First Lady of Civil Rights, Rosa Parks, is famous for her participation in the Montgomery bus boycott. She refused to give her seat to a white person and was arrested. She successfully fought and won against the Alabama state segregation laws. Many states celebrate Rosa Parks Day every February 4th, her birthday.
The Little Rock Nine. The Little Rock Nine were a group of colored students enrolled in Central High School, September 1957, in Little Rock, Arkansas. It was a test of Brown versus Board of Education, a landmark Supreme Court decision banning segregation in America's public schools. It was a big challenge of state rights, and the students were escorted to and from school each day by the Army.